Session recording is in progress. I will be your session moderator today. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Am I still sharing the right screen?
Yep.
Great. Welcome to the facility staff are talking. Come listen. I'm joined by four wonderful professionals who do amazing work, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves so that I don't butcher any names or titles or minimize anything that these folks do that I leave something out. So let's go in the order on the screen here.
Sure. Hello, my name is Renee Woodson. I am the Assistant Director of Residence Life for Facilities Management for William Paterson University. I've been in higher ed for about 28 years, and the majority of it in residence life, and have worked a lot with several different types of schools, really just doing not only the general residence life experience, but also a lot of facilities management, which is how I ended up in William Paterson doing facilities management here. So, you know, it's been a transition that's been great. And after 28 years, you know, I think you start to figure some of this stuff out. So it's nice to meet you all.
Don't worry, they'll change the game on you next year.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ashley Shaw. I'm the Assistant Director for Housing Systems and Logistics at Rowan University. That is what we fancily title housing operations here. I am responsible for all of the facilities and maintenance of our on-campus housing, and also our housekeeping staff. I supervise one of them specifically that does not clean our multiple public-private partnership buildings. We have 3 different P3 companies that we also work with. So we have a lot of different things that happen here at Rowan that you have to learn. And I have been in this position, I'm in my 7th year and my 11th year here at Rowan.
I think Sandy, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Sanjanetta Worley. Sandy Worley is fine, or Sandy. I'm an Associate Director of Residence Life at NJIT, or New Jersey Institute of Technology. I've been here for 25 years. My major responsibilities are dealing with all things facilities and conference services. I supervise a couple of professional staff members as well, but my role as a liaison with our facility services is a big part of what I do. Within that 25 years, I've done, I feel like everything that happens in facilities, from input for renovating halls to new construction to our daily day-to-day operations. So yes, feel free to ask questions and I'll share the knowledge I have from NJIT's experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Keith Baker. I'm the maintenance manager for University Housing of Res Life Operation and Maintenance at Temple University. I've been in the housing business for over 35 years. I've been a facilities manager for like 25 of those years. And I've been at Temple for 2 years. That's about right, Brandon? For about 2 years.
Yeah, we're coming up on that too, I think in the fall.
Yeah, so I'm Brandon's number 2. We take care of all of the housing maintenance needs. I have at least 6 to 8, well, I'm whittling down to 4 now on the staff, as far as maintenance staff is concerned. But Brandon's number 2, like I said, and deal with everything from soup to nuts in housing.
So I'd just like to point out for posterity's sake that between just the 4 of you, I'm not going to add my time in, just between the 4 of you, that's 99 years of experience between the 4 of you.
Wow.
99.
Wow.
I wasn't expecting quite that much. So again, I'm literally blown away by that. I'm Brandon. I'm the Associate Director of University Housing at Temple, specifically responsible for maintenance and operations for our 5,300 bed, 2 dining hall, Partridge in a Pear Tree up here on North Broad Street in so our next slide here, I just thought I'd throw something in because, this is the kind of stuff that we find. Just walking rooms randomly on Monday, and on the 6th floor of our 27-story residence hall, I found this just in passing, little things. I just got the quote for this. This is $17,200 to replace just this one. And I've got another one that I'm already in the progress of doing. So just fun times, May, nothing big going on at all. All right, so I'm going to toss it to our panelists. Our first question, we got some advanced questions from the field and I've added some in. So I have no particular order in which way you guys answer this. So the first one of you that jumps at it, you get it. But a COVID related question, I don't think a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about what our teams do. And most of us can't work from home. And particularly not the people that we supervise and work with. So what has it been like the last 14 or 15 months for you and your staff? What's worked, what hasn't? And if we get to that part, how's the fall looking?
I don't mind just jumping in. Well, I'm sure for all of us, it's been an interesting and sometimes very challenging time. Now for our staff, I'll start with them. We had to remind people that we're also a part of the pandemic.
Yeah.
A lot of people lost sight of that. So that was a huge challenge in terms of the communication piece. When we initially had our shutdown, it was actually 2 days into our spring break. So a lot of people had actually left the week before and weren't anticipating coming back for at least another week. So the challenge at the end of the semester was, how are we going to get these people to move out without exposing our staff, without exposing them? And plus there were so many things that were still unknown, getting the communication out and being flexible at the same time with understanding the circumstances. It was a lot. And I probably had about 5 parents who thought they had to tell me it was a pandemic. As if we weren't living through it also, and refused to do certain things. So we offered a lot of resources to our students to call in other companies to say, how much would you charge them to come pack up their stuff and ship it to them or store it, because we still had to clear the halls. And we actually went up until the beginning of August in doing that.
Wow.
Some of the other challenges were, helping our staff that lives on campus to help them feel safe, because they still had a job to do. And like you already mentioned, a lot of them live where they work. So meeting all those dynamics, setting up all the protocols we had to put in place, changing the physical of the halls in terms of putting up shields for our desk attendants. We had to do all that stuff. Now, I will say, our pandemic recovery team, they did a lot in terms of the policy implementations. Sometimes I think they needed to come talk to us as the Res Life folks, because we operate very different from the academic side of the house. So getting them to understand who we are, what we do, and how we need to do it in the residence halls became a big piece where we had to communicate a lot to get them to understand, this is who we are, this is what we need. Now, some of the successes I would say, because I could talk about a lot of the challenges, but what came out of that were a lot of processes that we put in place, like our move out process. We used all these different features and formats that like the BookMe type softwares and stuff, where we had to utilize all those things to help us with our move out process and make it easier for the students and the parents. Constant communication. I feel like working from home, in some cases, we actually worked more because we didn't know how to walk away from the computers or our Cisco Jabber phones, and we hooked it to our cell phones. We did all this stuff, and it was finding that balance. So we started talking about wellness quite a bit. which was good for our professional staff, even though it was like, I still need you to do all this over here, but take care of yourself.
Right.
On the side.
Yeah, it was a lot. I don't want to take all the time, but did you want me to talk about going into fall?
Let's toss it to someone else. Let's, anybody else have a different perspective on how it's going for your teams?
Well, let me jump in there. So in the beginning for us, the challenge was, especially for our teams, was the same information that you're getting is the same information that we're getting. We're not holding back any information for you. This is our first pandemic just as well as it's your first pandemic. So just getting them to understand that, as we get information, we will then pass on the information to you. All the other universities, they were going home, sending their workers home. When are we going home? So that was very challenging in the beginning. But then once we got around to being able to allow them to see that, we're working just as hard to make sure that not only are they safe, but they're going to be able to go home as well. The successes was we worked out a system. We would have them come in because I believe everyone went home, but we worked from home, but we worked out a system where we had certain ones come in. I think it was a Monday through Friday. We had a certain schedule with certain floors in our buildings will be taken care of as far as our housekeeping was concerned and our trades were concerned. And it worked out worked out well right up into the time where they all were able to come back. And we had, the PPE information in place and everything. So it's still moving. It was very much a whole lot of concerns about health because we have some seasoned workers and they were very scared about the people that they were taking care of at home. But once they came in and we had all the PPE guidelines in place, it worked out pretty much and pretty well for them.
Anybody want to talk about how fall is looking?
I'll jump in. So I will say that, anything could change, obviously. I think every day we have absolutely no idea what tomorrow will bring. And I think that that's just kind of been the theme since the whole beginning of the pandemic is that you never know what you're waking up to in the morning. So I think we're all just flying by the seat of our pants some days, and that's okay. That's our life. As far as I am aware, Rowan is saying that we're going to be pretty much back to typical run-of-the-mill daily life. One of our challenges last year was having to run a move-in for 2.5 weeks straight to spread out our move-in protocol, obviously. I never want to go back to that ever again. And so I'm hoping that we obviously don't need to do that this upcoming fall and that we have a typical move-in weekend so that we can provide appropriate resources and support to our students and their families as they're here. We are not going to be spreading out our occupancy. That is not our intention or our plan. Everyone will be assigned fully to fill up our housing as normal. And so for us, we're kind of going back to what it has always been. So until someone tells me different, that's where we're headed.
And that's for us as well. We're possibly coming back to full capacity. And I was telling Brandon earlier, I think we're going to do good. I think we're really going to do well because, the kids, I think they're going to get vaccinated. They want to party. They want to hang out. They want to be with their friends. So I really honestly think we're going to do well. We'll probably have a few off here and there, but I think we're going to do pretty good.
At William Patterson, we are, kind of in the same boat. I think, right now, especially with the challenges from a revenue perspective on, colleges and universities, definitely we know that having more students on campus is pretty much everything for us. And so we are working hard to do that. We're definitely going to face some challenges that I think we haven't seen before in that, COVID hasn't gone away, even though many people are acting as if it has. And so there's still questions about whether or not to test students that have not been vaccinated, separate policies for students who are vaccinated versus students who are not vaccinated. We had some real challenges last year with having students not have visitation, which I think is the gift that keeps on giving. Once we open that back up, I think that's when, you know, those applications start rolling in. And also just students having the ability to be able to choose their roommates again and not to spread out so much. As a state institution, we also had a testing site in our parking lot on campus, which interrupted and disrupted a lot of our ability to be able to do move out. And it kind of, I think, exacerbated the challenges of students and families who were concerned about COVID and coming to campus to get their things. So over the course of, you know, everything from March to, you know, really to opening, we really had move out for like 6 months. So that was a challenge. And I think we are looking forward to fall, but knowing that we definitely are going to have to start doing some real marketing and some definite projects, and that will allow students to see that even though we are you know, still in the midst of COVID, that the changes that are occurring and the vaccinations increasing are definitely something that we're hanging our hat on, and that we encourage them to do that and take advantage of that for themselves for all the reasons that are out there, but mostly just so that we can get back to, you know, whatever our new normal is going to be, and that they are directly involved and related in that. And so I think that's where we are kind of hanging our hat is, you know, how do we reach the students now and say to them, hey, fall is looking up. You know, we're looking forward to you. We're welcoming you back home. And so, you know, the sooner the better. And, you know, Friday in New Jersey, when the masks come off, I think that's going to change a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's going to be an opportunity for people to start to feel a little bit more normal. And I think that's really going to be, you know, kind of a catalyst for us.
Well, as all of our areas are moving out of COVID, so shall our questions. So area number 2 that we kind of set up, what things has your institution put into place over the last year that you think have been really helpful and you'd love to keep? And what would you eliminate? I ask this question at every opportunity with our senior leaders that I get, because I feel like we did learn some things about how to operate a bit differently and a bit more efficiently, simply by being forced to. And I think if we don't keep remembering those lessons, we're likely to fall right back to where we were, doing things we didn't like, or, you know, giving more of ourselves to put things forward that was necessary. So I'd love to hear from you. You know, what kinds of things are you seeing that you'd like to keep, and then things you'd like to get rid of?
Well, at NJIT, we did a lot of converged learning. So I would love to see some of that stay. You know, that would have to be the faculty agreeing with that. But even for Residence Life, the programming aspect, we had a lot of students who normally wouldn't physically come to a program, join a program because it was virtual. So if we can somehow keep that nuance in there, we might reach out to some students or get some students to participate who normally that social aspect is something that they're very off with it. So hopefully that will stay in play. Definitely the communication factor that we had with a lot of our campus colleagues, facilities, our counseling services. We have a good rapport with them already, but I feel like it stepped up another notch. Mm-hmm. And if we can keep that communication open the way we established it, I think going forward, we will have a lot of good progress. So those are a couple of things for NJIT.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
Unlike some of our colleagues, we actually did go to having more move-ins, and we actually loved it. It worked well for us. We only did 4 days, and for some people that's normal, but for us, it's just usually just the weekend. But doing that gave us the opportunity and the ability to be able to present a greater level of customer service and attention to detail. I think to families that they appreciated. There was an opportunity for a lot of individualism. And even though we were keeping our social distance, there just was a lot more of us to go around for kind of less of them. And also I felt the anxiety level go down tremendously from day to day because there were so many less people on campus at one time. The lines were a lot longer. The cars were not wrapped around the building and all the way through campus to the degree that they usually are when there's less time. So I think that's something that we actually have decided we're going to do. Not as many days, but definitely more than our standard number.
Great, great. Any others on this one, or I can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Going once. And so third area I thought would be a good topic to talk about is turnover. You know, in thinking about this question, I was really thinking more about housekeeping staff and maintenance staff, but it really hearing all of us say how many years we all have put in, you know, I'm not old enough to retire yet, but I wish I were at some days. But, you know, how are we all dealing with the impending loss of personnel and professionals who know how all this stuff works, who know where the special valve is and the special key and the special trap door that gets you to that special place that no one knows where it is. You know, we have a staff member like that who's retiring in the next 2 weeks. We had one leave for a better paying job. We have one that's 2 others that have retired in the last 12 months that the pandemic, you know, was the icing on the cake for them. And they just said, I'm out. How are we all preparing for this and dealing with the loss of these people? And how are we planning for to retain their knowledge going forward, you know, and passing it on to other folks?
Aren't we those people?
I was getting ready to say the same thing.
Mhm.
I think we are on some days, and then there's some days I'm like, yeah, no, I don't know how y'all fix that. I don't. So you tell me, and then I'll tell the next guy. But I know we're having a hard time, particularly in the trades area, recruiting people.
Yeah.
You know, a good stable union job in Philly, you know, with tuition and great benefits versus making 30 or 40 more grand per year on the outside. And, you know, but whether you get laid off during the year or not, you know, we're trying to figure out the right, you know, carrot and stick to kind of get folks in the door to, you know, make that compelling argument. And I know that's probably similar in other places, even for non-maintenance personnel. You know, our pay structures haven't kept up with the increasing cost of living and what the outside world is doing. And, you know, they're lucky to hold on to me some days, much less all these other folks. So, you know, I'm curious what everybody else is facing. How's it going in your areas?
In our office, we started doing position binders. That might not give you all the nuts and bolts, but it'll give you an overview of the position to transition to another person. And when we deal with other departments, for example, our locksmith was retiring. So the locksmith that took his place, they actually overlapped them for about a month so that they could train. And that was a request directly with our facilities department. Can we make sure this happens?
That's good.
That's good. When it comes to me, like I deal with the facilities for residents' life, like I get to know that person. I don't directly supervise the locksmith. That's a totally different department, but he'll call me before he calls his supervisor about things in the halls because of the amount of years I've been there and the relationship I had with the former person. We know where all the bones and all the keys are.
Yeah.
Just establishing those relationships have been a help. But if you can get that overlap, sometimes the budget can allow it, sometimes it can't. But that is truly something. They're pretty much shadowing the person as they're organizing out. That really helps. And also those position binders.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what I have been doing as well. We have, like Brandon said, we have several people that have retired or gone. Right now, I have a gentleman that's kind of shadowing one of the gentlemen that's retiring in like 10 days. And basically, it's just, you know, I told him, I said, I need to plug you up to a computer and just download all the information in your head so that we can have it. Majority of the time, I will hang out with him just to get some of the nuggets that he has also. So that's basically, what we've been doing as well, just trying to create a buddy system within the system, not necessarily the crossover, but the guys that's already here that will be kind of working their floors or working their areas, just trying to receive that information. We were in a meeting last week and announcing that one of the guys was leaving. And one of the gentlemen from housekeeping says, well, how do you replace Michael Jackson? Because he was referring to this guy, like, this guy's a rock star. Like, how do you replace this guy? And, like Brandon was saying, unfortunately, we had a deficit when it comes to the finances and everything. So, we're hopefully, prayerfully, we're going to try to do the best that we can to get the right candidate for the positions that we have available.
Yeah, I've made relationships. So for things that we use outside vendors for that are very similar in trade nature, I keep a back channel with them. They have the ability to be a little closer in tie to the trade schools. Most of our outside vendors hire directly from the trade schools. So the minute you leave Penco Tech, or the minute you leave one of the institutes or whatever, or an apprentice program, they've scooped you up and they've signed you.
Yeah.
I keep an open door and open phone line with a couple of these guys to say, hey, if you got guys that got kids that are approaching college age, I was like, send them my way for a couple of years, we'll take them and bring them on our side. The kids get to go to school for free. I get a couple of experienced guys for a few years, and then they cycle out if they don't want to stay, or, we're trying everything we can, the Philly market is really tough right now.
Yeah, it really is.
And Michael Jackson, I think, is a bit of an overstatement for this particular.
I thought so too, but
at best.
If we really look at it, we're really dealing with the older, the seasoned generation. We can't afford them, but then the younger generation, they lack the skill, but they want $1 million. So that's kind of where we are right now and across the field altogether.
Yeah. So going into our next area, physical environment, so everybody thinks we're not doing anything. I laugh at vendors that when they call me, it's like, so what are you guys doing over there? It's like, it's a regular year to me. I don't know what y'all have been doing.
Right.
We are using these empty buildings that we do have. We are changing, but we are doing everything we can while we have the space and the time, shutting water down, changing all kinds of stuff. So I'd love to hear from you guys, what projects do you have going on that you want to brag about? And secondarily, or maybe one question over the other, how are you dealing with your deferred maintenance? For us, I know we've used some of this time to try and do some catch up, but I know budgets were tight pre-COVID, and COVID has sucked the life out of the fledgling funds that some of us did have. So I'd love to know how you're dealing with your physical environments on your campuses.
Well, in our department, we were, I think, overly aggressive in trying to, be a team player and holding back on doing some things that we thought could wait in the beginning. And actually that bode well for us towards the end, because now we are rapidly trying to spend all the money that we can before they take it away and get some projects done. But it also, like you said, with some of the empty rooms, buildings, we really have been able to take a little bit more detailed approach and do some things that probably should have been done all along, but it's very difficult to do when we're occupied and when we have short breaks. And with COVID last year, it just, our students were always in their rooms because they may have been on campus, but they may be in classrooms. So it was much harder to get in there with work orders and things like that as easily as we normally would have. So I think we're in a good place in that we definitely have some bigger projects going on where we're replacing buildings with furniture that we hope that when the students come back, we give them something to smile about. It's been a tough year for everyone. So we wanted to do things that were student facing, that were accelerating kind of some of the positivity of being back in the residence halls, and just being able to kind of take some of that early deferred maintenance and use the time that we had to kind of put those things in place, and hoping that that's going to go well for us when they return.
I think Ashley, you were going to say something there.
Yeah, so I'm in a situation where all of our deferred maintenance is unfortunately still deferred.
Wow.
So,
Shocking.
Wow.
yeah, we have a laundry list of things that need to happen to many of our older buildings. And I don't know when that'll be happening. Conversations happen every year about how we need money in order to do these things, and it's just not an option. And obviously COVID really stressed that for us in a big way. I will say that, obviously every institution was tasked with doing more with less. That is like, I feel like everyone's new motto is do more with less. And I don't think it was ever more apparent how much that needed to happen than last year. Last summer, so normally in the summer, we hire student employees who assist us with our assessing of our buildings. Even though our Res Life staff did it already for closing, we really go in depth and train our staff really hands-on. And we normally have 32 student workers who assist my team with that project. They actually do things like replace furniture, they repair furniture, they do things like window screen work orders, things like that.
Wow.
Last summer, I was unable to hire them. And so that left 3 of us professional staff to walk every building, find all of the maintenance,
Wow.
put the work orders, complete the work orders that fell under furniture repair, replacement, or window screens, and then also inspect behind our housekeeping staff to ensure that spaces were clean and sanitized before students moved in. So 3 of us did that without the assistance of all of the other people we would have normally had. I think the positive end of that is that, one, we had one of the most successful move-ins in terms of housekeeping success and maintenance issues that we've ever had before. And that was wonderful. However, I think it also allowed us to really put professional eyes on every single space and look for some of these things that we really just cannot wait anymore on. And really pushed for some of those things to take place, even if they weren't like, completely gutting a building and starting over. It was like, this room needs special attention because I would be embarrassed to put someone in here. And so I think that has really resulted in some great stuff leading into this summer, because maybe some of those things don't exist anymore because we really put eyes on them last year and then attended to them.
That's great. That as I was talking to you all as we entered the room, blowing my step count out of the water, Keith and I, here, we put our eyes on every single room at the beginning and close of every year. So, that is a true asset to have the most seasoned, knowledgeable eyes, putting their eyes on everything. If I'm going to get yelled at for during move-in, I want to know before move-in, definitely agree with that. I've been telling our staff also, if I'm a parent and I'm looking at that bill that I'm paying for the fall, and I'm looking at where you've been all year long, whether you've been open all the way, part of the way, most of us never, nowhere near full campuses. And I come back and I look at this like, y'all had all year, this building was empty and this is the best y'all came up with. So I'm telling my staff now, I was like, I would be shocked and ashamed if I was a parent and moved into a building. It's like, and they asked us, like, was this building open this year? I was like, no, ma'am, this building was not open. It's been closed since October of 2020. And she's gonna look at me as like, well, what have y'all been doing? I was like, I wish I had a great answer for that. So I'm telling them now, I've been telling them for months, it's like the bar, despite the pandemic, come fall, nobody's gonna remember what we did last October when we moved people in and then suddenly move them back out again. And the building, nobody is going to care. All they're going to care about is we told them to come back. We put them back in here, 4-door room, just like nothing ever happened. And they're going to expect all this stuff to be right. And they may have a good point. So good luck to all of you.
Well, one of the things I can say, I know for a fact that when our students come back, they are going to be able to see. Because we did a very huge LED project for all of our buildings. I know that you guys have buildings and you have all these pretty chandeliers and sconces and all these other wonderful lights. And when you sit down and you start figuring out what bulb goes where, you realize that you have 20 lights in one building, or 20 lights on one floor. So we really we went hard at this LED project, and we reduced our light bulbs down to four LED
bulbs.
lights for at least 8 buildings?
9 and 2 dining halls.
9 and 2 dining halls, 4 light bulb. Impressive. Come on, y'all. Give it up. Give it up. Very impressive.
So much so that if he asked me about another bulb,
Yeah.
I told him, don't come, I don't want to talk about light bulbs. I don't want to buy light bulbs. You just better figure it out. Stick a finger in the socket. I don't
Or
care.
something.
I don't want to hear about light bulbs. I'm tired.
And that was with a reduced budget, of course. And that's in rooms as well as the common areas also, which was a huge feat. Because, like he said, when they come back, they want to see the change. We weren't able to do some of the larger things that we would love to do, but that big difference. And I mean, we did get some painting done, and we did some other furniture. One building did get renovated, but other than that, they will see a huge difference when they come back. No more dim rooms.
No more dim.
We have something similar at NJIT where we're doing a lot of carpet, a lot of paint, so that the students do have that impact when they come back.
Mhm.
Our professional staff offices, for me, it always took a backseat to the student space, the student experience. But this year, we have enough money to renovate 4 of our 6 professional staff offices. So that'll make our coordinators happy. And
Yeah.
they'll be involved in the process. They're going to be a little inconvenienced for a moment while we do flooring, paint, and really take out all their current furniture and put all brand new furniture in. But that's one of the projects. And then, of course,
And they better not complain. They better
Right.
not complain. Tell them to shut it up.
yeah, we're upgrading our wireless, because that's one of the things our students would talk about. So we're looking at infrastructure type changes as well as the aesthetics, that
Mhm.
whole street to suite, and then all that technology in the middle needs to come into play. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. It's a lot of work, but I'm excited about it for our staff. My office will look exactly the same, but everybody else, they'll be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing the wireless access points too. Our IT folks are handling that, but every building on campus gets new wireless points this summer. So that'll be a big, best thing for us is that old ones had these covers that fell off or that they could pull down. And the new ones are like a beautiful, seamless little, looks like a little AirPod in the ceiling kind of thing. So that'll be good. It'll be faster too for them. So they'll appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, last topical area before we get into some of the participant questions and all is, so where are you getting your professional development information from? How are you staying sharp? Obviously there's everything on COVID, and then there's all the other stuff that we've got going on. And we've got a couple of people here on the call, and I'm sure there's more that will watch the recording after the fact. So, for those of us in ops and facilities sides of the house, what do our other colleagues need to hear from us? What do they need to know about working with us differently and better going forward?
Well, I'll jump in about professional development. I am taking the APPA 90-day, it's a 90-day course for CEFP for Certified Educational Facilities Professionals.
Oh, I just did that. Yep.
Yeah, and it seems to be, it's a lot because it's a lot of it is on your own. However, it does give you an opportunity to kind of delve into all areas and give you kind of a base level of knowledge, and sometimes just reinvigorate the things that you knew, or and see what things are current. So I think that that's helpful for people just to see what APPA has out there to offer for courses. And actually, there are some discounts for, I know in the Northeast where you can get the program even for free, which is what I'm doing right now, but it's usually like $1,300. So if anybody's in the area and they want to jump in on that, just definitely look for the discounts that are available to you based on your region.
I put APA's link in the chat. Not sure which area some of you fall in. I know Temple and Philadelphia falls in the Delaware Valley chapter. And some of the schools in our area were able to actually send people to do the certified educational facilities planner program for free. They had a couple of grants available. So, but if you guys are looking for info, APA's link is in the chat, but they've been a tremendous resource, particularly during COVID, is just keeping folks together and sharing knowledge and tips and all kinds of information.
Yeah, that's one of the a lot of the webinars that I leaned on was APA as well, because sometimes we don't have to recreate the wheel. You know, we can learn from just what our colleagues is doing out there to see how we can make our systems much better. So I've learned a considerable amount from the APA webinars, you know, how far we were.
You know, I agree with you definitely. And one of my other resources are the facilities managers on our campus, talking to them, and you know, the day-to-day people we deal with, like the building mechanics, the custodial staff, just asking them, especially if they have a new machine. Oh, what is that? What does that do? Or especially with the whole COVID thing, all of the sanitation type things they had to do. Because we had an isolation hall, so that brought into all these other things that they had to now do for personal protection, of course, and sanitizing the room that had a student for COVID. And also the vendors. I have a lot of contact with vendors who they want us as residence life professionals or student affairs professionals as contacts as well as the facilities folks. But they'll give you information and tell you what's the latest in the industry, or they'll because they're trying to sell stuff, but you also they become a resource as well. But so definitely those two areas.
Yeah, definitely vendors, you know, part of it is, and you know, all of us that work with Makuho a little more deeply, the vendor relationships become key. And I've said this in other presentations before. You know, it's like when you get on the airplane and the flight attendant's teaching you about all the safety features of the plane. It's like, you hope you don't need some of that stuff, but when you do, you don't want the first time you're hearing it to be, you know, when you really need it. You know, the idea is to build a relationship early so that, you know trends about furniture and carpet cleaning equipment and you know, particular types of maintenance tools and things like that. So I definitely agree. You know, some of the best info I've gotten has been from vendors that give us information quicker and they're more on the cutting edge sometimes than our internal folks are.
Yeah.
You know, I get the CHO email, that listserv. Even if I can't participate, like in the roundtables or the discussion, just reading other people's responses are really good. And it's a lot of great information, or just a question that's posed by a colleague, just thinking about stuff. So if someone's not a part of that, they might want to try to get on that list or that email list.
Yeah, for any of if there's any senior housing officers on the list, either, you know, myself or Jocelyn or Amanda could figure out how to get you on that listserv. Definitely, if you're on social media, I don't know how it works anywhere else because I can only do one thing at a time. But there's a lot of great student affairs and facilities groups on Facebook that you can get into. And there's a lot of question sharing and info and resource sharing that's happening on social media as well that is a bit more off book, but definitely great topical areas just to keep your mind sharp about what else, what other college campuses are facing. I know we got a attendee question about how we're keeping up morale. If anybody wants to dive into that area, how are you staying up and how are you supporting others?
Wow, that's a good one.
Day by day.
Day by day.
Well, we've been it's almost like we're giving people we're recognizing comp time and a lot more praise. It might not be we can give you more money, no, but there's a lot more praise and flexibility where instead of opening your office at 8:30, open at 9 or 10. So we're trying to do some adjustments like that so that our staff has some time to breathe. So, you know, I use comp time in quotes because does that even exist?
Right, right.
So we're just trying to be flexible and also offering a lot more wellness type things, whether it's through our professional development and staff committee, where we're just offering time to breathe.
Mhm.
I know early on in dealing with a lot of the COVID stuff, it's a lot of challenges for our staff. I mean, as all I think is essential workers really had to experience. There's a lot of concern about, you know, coming to work and then going home to your families,
Yeah.
and kind of what that would do. So, you know, we really did lead on the PPE, and you know, I tried to provide some fun masks with T-shirts that they could change kind of routinely, so that they could feel a little bit more comfortable. Some face shields that were actually paper that could be decorated. We just tried to do some kind of a little bit quirky things. It didn't always, you know, give people the full satisfaction, but for those moments, it did give them a little bit of a sense of that people are paying attention and that there's care and concern, that we are worried about them just as we're worried about everybody else. And a lot of pep talks about what it means to be an essential employee, and how valuable that is, and how we do understand what the sacrifices that they make. And also a lot of understanding and reminding them that they have time. And if they choose to take it, that we completely understand that and we will adjust, to let people feel a little bit more flexible, that if they needed to take some sick time, even if it's just for their own mental health and wellness, that we understood that, and that was something that we were going to kind of support in that way. And I did a lot of feeding people with individually wrapped items. Just to, even if it's just a breakfast meeting with, you know, separate orange juice and a separate bagel, just so that, you know, while you're having your meeting, you have a little sense of normalcy. Nothing like what we were able to do before, but just to kind of give them a little bit of a sense of normalcy, and just allowing them finally to do to actually have some days that were social distancing days. And even though clearly as an essential worker, you cannot work from home and clean the room at the same time,
Right.
I think it was something that was really necessary, considering the fact that the rest of the campus was really able to take advantage of that. And we needed to highlight their importance. So giving them those few social distancing days where they're able to just not be on campus, especially with the testing in our parking lot, which was very challenging, especially early on, watching people walk around in, you know, full PPE, was disheartening for them. So saying, you know what, take a day, you know, be at home, be connected. When you come back, we'll pick up from there.
Yeah, we ended up, you know, along those same lines. We gave all of our facilities, our maintenance and our housekeeping staff 2 weeks of comp time to use. So we gave them 2 extra weeks of
Yeah.
paid time off. You know, it became very apparent, it still kind of is, that, you know, everybody thought campus was closed and everybody was working from home, and that's really just not true.
Right.
And a lot of our staff, I mean, maybe our group is just a special bunch, but they've still got a few chips on their shoulders about how folks kind of left them in the dust. And, you know, working from home and getting full salaries and not having to use vacation time, you know, to run around and do little things as long as they got their work done, you know, those weren't options for our staff. So
Yeah.
the 2 weeks definitely went a long way toward making peace, you know, but definitely, you know, along the lines of that second question about what everybody else needs to know. I think the maintenance staff and the housekeeping staff definitely recognize visibility.
Yeah.
You know, when they don't see you, they feel like they're doing this by themselves. And
Yeah.
you know, as we emerge from this and figure out what the new normal of our offices look like, having a presence and a visibility that is constant at some level is going to be important, particularly for leaders You know, my staff is not getting on Zoom staff meetings, you know,
Right.
they're not hopping on, you know, we've had a couple of key staff departures and they had Zoom farewells. And we opened it up to them and really one or two maybe got on, but you know, it's just not their thing. You know, they do in some cases, you know, they see me every day and they see Keith every day. But all those other people that they had made relationships with, hall directors and assistant directors and directors and VPs and everybody that walked the buildings and walked the campus, some of them haven't been seen since March of last year.
Right.
And that's been very, very visible to them. And I think that's a relationship area that's going to have to be rebuilt with a lot of these key staff that, you know, okay, well, now you're all vaccinated and I still don't see you. And we've got masks now and I still don't see you. And the kids are gone and I still don't see you. And, you know, I don't think they've gotten to the point where they're going to ask for a second set of comp days at this point, but I definitely think, you know, some folk come back to campus and y'all get a cold shoulder, like, yeah, I didn't empty your trash today,
Yeah.
whatever. You know, I wouldn't be shocked, you know, if the warm reception that you're expecting isn't quite there, because some of them felt abandoned for months on end where they were doing the work and chasing after your COVID isolation, cleaning people and cleaning carts and bathrooms and everything. And they didn't see the rest of the team, you know, putting that effort in. So I'm not doubting any of your efforts or anything like that, but from their perspective, I think that's something that communication wise, I think needs to be said and brought up. So,
Yeah. And I have a degree in human services, so I lean very, very, very heavily on it. And I, on purpose, make sure that, like Brandon said, that I'm seen, you know, and I listen, you know, I listen to the venting. A lot of times they just want to be heard. And I just allow them to be heard, you know, and it continuously encourage them. And once after I call Brandon and after maybe a 2 or 3 hour session with one or two of them, I'm a little spent, but, you know, they feel much better once they have, you know, had that chance to just vent, you know, the frustration of what they see on campus. Yeah.
yeah, we just had our first in-person full staff meeting last week since March of 2020. We've been doing them via podcast and, you know, one-on-ones, but we couldn't gather our group. You know, we have 17 or 20, 70 to 20 maintenance staff in our team. So it's not possible under the COVID rules to do it legally and bring them together. Last thing I want is some student taking a picture is like, look at these 20 people in this room after all the stuff we told them. So, so last week was our first in-person meeting with everybody, and you know, it went well, and most of our team is vaccinated now. So, you know, that was what kind of pushed us over the edge. But, you know, again, getting those little bits of normalcy back, and we're trying to plan our first in-person retirement party since COVID started. So, you know, trying to get back to doing some of those things now that we're, you know, like 99% vaccinated on the staff. But are there any other questions from our attendees? Anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to hear about? Not, I will go into you know, closing thoughts from our panelists. Anything you want to say or share, or questions you have, you know, while you have 99 years of experience on the call. Where else are you going to get 99 years in one phone call?
I don't know, my percentage is way too high on that. Oh my God, I feel.
Does anyone have a thought of how you motivate your staff now for fall? Because that's one of the things we're thinking about, because we didn't really have a downtime. Even if you had a day off here or there, we've been going nonstop in our areas. And like, have you thought about like how you're gonna bring them back in for a fresh year, new circumstances, some stuff we still don't know, it's still the unknown, like it was mentioned before. So we're just waiting for things to be told to happen. So if you haven't thought about it, I guess that's something we all probably need to think about, the motivating factor for continuing.
You know, I think from my area, pushing people to take time off.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, people are literally holding on to time simply because they don't have anywhere sexy to go. But, you know, reminding people that, yes, you are vaccinated now, so you can travel. You can stay home and work on the garden, or heck, just take half days if you want to, like if you feel like you can't separate yourself. But, you know, move out happened, and it happened like in a quick blur because people moved out in the dark of night. It wasn't the same process
right.
as normal. The numbers were so much smaller. So they didn't get that finality to the year that they're used to seeing. The summer is going to look different because we've been spacing projects out all through the year, you know, so we've only really have 2 buildings to fully turn over. That's a lie. It's really 4 buildings, but to fully turn over in the normal way. So their summer is going to look very different than what it has. And they still don't get the concept of like, so the conferences aren't coming. As like, no, they're not coming. Like, no thousands of kids. And like, we have all summer to get this stuff done. So, you know, I've been pushing people to please use your time. Don't lose it. Like, don't save it and stockpile it, because the fall is going to be regular. When we come back, we are going to need you again. You know, stuff is still going to break, and it's going to get dirty, and you know, we're still going to need to keep up the same COVID cleaning levels regardless of what anybody says. So, you know, take that time, relax, decompress now, so that the fall can be handled like a normal fall, because that's what everybody else is expecting, you know.
And to piggyback off of Brandon, I believe also that fall is coming. Like, continue to communicate that, you know, fall is coming. You know, yes, we were in a pandemic last year, but this year it's going to look like normal. You know, talk about the PPE, but keep reiterating, it's coming. It's going to be the normal. We're going to be back in the normal operations. Just right now, just get them, you know, geared up and ready in their minds. After vacation, we're coming back in, and it's going to be full steam ahead. But just the communication that fall is coming is most important.
And I think for the staff that are able to either still completely work from home, that are completely working, you know, we've got to start weaving some in-person days back in. Like if your plan, you know, July, I've heard some schools, July 5th, it's on like Donkey Kong, like y'all's all coming back. You know, if you haven't woven people back into that process and had conversations about, well, what are your kids doing for camp? And, you know, how are you dealing with some of those other things that may not be fully reset yet? You know, it's going to be a rude awakening late June where, you know, people are like, yeah, no, I hadn't planned on that. Y'all should have said something months ago.
Right.
You know, start weaving some days back in, maybe a Tuesday or a Wednesday in office day, just to, you need to get used to the physical environment. You know, let's have a conversation about, you know, how you feel. Remember, you're vaccinated now and it's open to you. So, you know, we're cleaning, but, you know, we ain't coming through here like, you know, Ghostbusters every day with a Kyvac and a backpack with a solution in it. And we're not, you know, blowing the air out the walls and all kinds of other stuff. Like, you know, some of this is back to your problem now. You know, we got some Lysol wipes for you now. We can find them again. And here's some masks as we got those. So, you know, come on in every now and then and let's start getting used to it again, because your students are going to be back and they're going to need you here. So, you know, or if you know you're going to be a little bit more remote for fall, you know, I think that communication again is really important, and giving everyone an opportunity to say what they need to say, because they're going to complain on July 5th or they're going to complain on August 1st or 2nd. You might as well start hearing some of it now about what their thoughts are, because I can tell you the world out there is not ready to go back in person, and they're questioning, why do I even need to do it? I can do so much better here at home. You know, I'm going to try and hold on to my virtual Tuesday as long as I can. Just because an admin day is just so important, with people not coming knock on my door asking about where this screw is or where this light bulb is or other things. But, you know, trying to figure out what that normal for fall is going to look like and tell people now so they can get ready, because it hit us like a ton of bricks to do what we're doing. And, you know, a lot of our staff have done the heavy lifting of being in person completely, but you've got a lot of people that now know they no longer need to be in the office 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And if that's the expectation, you're going to face some resistance. So just be ready for it. Closing thoughts from anyone else, wrapping up the time here?
Yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but one quick closing thought is a lot of the people who worked in the shadows before were pushed to the forefront, especially when COVID hit. It's important that we make sure people understand student affairs, residence life, and what we actually do, because I found that people on the other side of the house had no clue of what we did and what our roles were until there was a crisis. And
Yeah.
making sure that we keep that communication out there, even if it's inviting them in for a minute to say, this is who we are, this is what we do, and hopefully getting them to understand. That helps us with the students, academic side and the housing side, when there's the understanding. I think we always understood them, but I don't think they always understood us.
Yeah. And I think I can speak for you at NJIT because it applies to us here and a couple of others that are particularly Rowan, where, you've got public universities that are heavily unionized. Stuff just doesn't happen because you go like this, even just to do the cleaning in the COVID spaces, that was a negotiation process that we had to go through. And, when you go to make a plexiglass screen or go flip something in a room, like there's certain people that do that work and you can't just ask any old body to do things. Like there's a process to a lot of it. A lot of it is in writing. Those folks, they've written rights and rules into their collective bargaining agreements, and things don't happen by magic. So I definitely agree with you, Sandy, taking the time to help other folks understand how we get things done. We get yelled at all the time. It's like, well, we put this request in at noon and it's 4 o'clock and it's not done. It's like, yes, it's not. And that's because you're not the only one putting requests in. The process, there's a list and a screen that we go through, and just because you want the door fixed, do we have the door? Where is the door? It's a heavy door. We need 2 people to take the door. We need a truck. We got to go get the truck. Got to move it from one end of campus to the other. Oh, we've got the wrong screws. Oh, it's the wrong size door. Oh, you said it was blue and I brought a green one, And I don't think people understand that it's, a lot of that sounds like complaining, but there's a process to how we get things done. And, I think the more our colleagues understand the process, just like, we would say, well, toss them in this empty bed over here. It's like, well, it's the wrong room type and it costs $300 or $400 a semester more. And that's an ADA classified room. So if I use it, then I can't hold it for the, it's like, and to some of our folks, it's like, it's a clean room, like just put them in it. There's a process to everything we do. It's like, well, the kid was drunk in the hallway, just toss them out. It's like, no, there's a process for how you do that. And it takes time. So, everybody's got processes that they work through. And I think this process through COVID has really exposed our processes to our colleagues and our partners. And I think that's something that I hope that they don't forget, that, it took bravery for, our HVAC mechanics to go and work in a room, where the heat wasn't working or the air wasn't working. And, everything we said is don't spend more than 10 or 15 minutes in any one location where there's students, but that repair takes 48 minutes to do. And there's only one way to do it. And you got to be in the room, in their bedroom where they were. And then the next day that room pops up on the COVID list. Like it took cojones to really handle this type of work that we've been doing this last, 15 months. And, they've had some battle fatigue going through it, and learning our processes, I hope, has been a lesson that everyone else on our teams can appreciate and remembers as we go forward. In closing, because I know we're up on time here, just a couple of friendly Makuho reminders again. Thanks for all of you that took the time to join us for our little conversation today. Upcoming stuff, June 9th, our rescheduled social justice symposium. We didn't even talk about this topic of what the world was doing while we were facing COVID. We sent staff home at least 2 or 3 days based on safety concerns within the city of Philadelphia as the world was reacting to what was going on around the country. So that was a whole nother layer to, you know, our staff being in N95s, wearing double mask gloves, face shields, you know, spraying sanitizer on everything they could, you know, just to get through the day, and then get an email at 11:50 in the morning to send them home because we weren't sure we could get them home safely if they stayed into the afternoon. But again, that's for the good of the order here. But Social Justice Symposium coming up on June 9th. You know, registration has been reopened. I believe it's open till the 2nd. Somebody please correct me if I'm not right. But again, that's great. You know, feel free to jump in on that. You can register on the Makuho website. If you are on this call, you have free membership in Makuho. You know, feel free to join us for that conversation in that day so that we can discuss what's going on our campuses and be ready for our cherubs and our students that are coming in the fall, and our new staff that is coming in the fall, that have been exposed to all of these challenges that our world is facing. Everything that we see in the world makes it onto our campus in one way or another.
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but we had our, how do I want to label this? We had our staff that were happy about what happened in November, and we had our staff that weren't, and they wear the same union uniforms. So it made it a very interesting dynamic, even within our work teams, to approach the political climate that this year has had. So
Yeah.
I know I need some retooling to go forward, and I hope that all of you feel like you do too. Again, thanks for joining us today. And thanks, Amanda's put the link in the chat for those of you that want to do the registration, look for that opportunity. And I know that Thor and Joey are on the call here today. They are our housing facilities operations co-chairs for Makuho. They are your linkage for those of us with the 99 years plus and our attendees. They are your linkage into Makuho's leadership. So if you have concerns, if you have questions, if there's a program that you'd like to see, if you want to host somebody on your campus one day in the future, probably not right now, Thor and Joey are your direct links into the Makuho leadership, as well as myself as your incoming president. Again, thanks very much. And I'll see you all June 9th for the Social Justice Symposium.